Welcome to this introduction video. I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Chris Turner. I'm the founder and director of Lean Training and Development for Radical Transformation. That's the company that owns this website. I designed and developed the Lean Training curriculum that is available on this website. Now, before I start talking about the online training, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for signing up for this training package. I want to let you know that I understand how difficult it is when making a decision to purchase a training product online, especially when you have so many choices available to you today. I want to thank you for choosing Radical Transformation as your lean training provider. I want you to know that I honor your personal commitment in taking this important first step, and I want to assure you that I personally will do everything that I can to deliver the best training experience as you participate in our lean training program. Now, I'd like to share a few things with you about the lean training system. And I want to start by giving you some background information about myself and how I came to design and to develop the lean training materials for this course. I've personally been involved in the continuous process improvement field for almost 30 years. And during this time, I've learned and experienced many different things, particularly within the main disciplines of lean principles, which are based on the Toyota production system, and Six Sigma. Now, of course, nowadays we have what's called Lean Six Sigma, which is an integration of these two disciplines. However, here's a fact that you might find very interesting. About 95% of my company's consulting and training projects are actually involved and focused on delivering lean principles to our clients. So you might ask, why is this? Well, it's because lean is the system that works best for most organizations. In other words, it's what companies actually need to deliver quick results. So I guess your next question probably would be, well, how can you say that, Chris, with all the hype about Six Sigma and Lean Six Sigma? Well, the reason is that lean is a quick and easier process to teach people about these principles, to help them to understand how they can identify and eliminate waste to improve and stabilize their own work processes. Now, you need to understand that any company that implements lean principles is not achieving these improvements by asking their employees to work harder. If they're doing that, they're on the wrong track. That's very 1950s and even prior to that. In fact, implementing lean principles should actually make life easier for the employees, not harder. The employees are achieving these results because they're being given the skills to enable them to work smarter. Now, Six Sigma, on the other hand, just in case you're thinking of moving on to this system and to learn it at some time in the future, they generate improvements by focusing on reducing process variation. Now, the training program for achieving this is much more complex than that's used to teach lean principles. It requires a company to develop a hierarchical structure, that's an infrastructure of people at different training levels and different capabilities, such as green belts, black belts, master black belts, etc., to support their Lean Six Sigma or Six Sigma program. Now, the complexity of the Six Sigma system means that there's a much longer learning curve, which actually increases the cost and the length of the implementation process. The fact is that many companies don't actually need to implement Six Sigma programs at all, because the truth is they'll never be capable of incorporating all of the elements of the Six Sigma process in an appropriate way, because their processes don't really call for that level of complexity. In fact, you'll find that many early adopters that jumped onto the Six Sigma bandwagon are now reconsidering their improvement strategies. In fact, many of them are beginning to move away from Six Sigma and implement lean principles. So I believe you're in the right place at the right time to go through this training, and I'd really like to take a moment to explain how I came to develop these training materials. As I said earlier, I've been involved in the continuous process improvement field for almost 30 years. Now, during this time, I've been in different work environments and working with many different clients too. In fact, there are three key business sectors where I've gained most of my hands-on work experience. And these are manufacturing, which I'd call my primary area that I've worked in, that I know the most about and I'm most comfortable at. And then healthcare is second, a very close second. And then administration type organizations such as back-end offices within manufacturing companies or healthcare organizations, which also includes some banking and medical billing, etc. So as you can see, the field may seem narrow in scope with only manufacturing, healthcare and administration, but my experiences are extremely broad in terms of the types of projects that come under these three different business sectors. Now, because of my background and experience, I've created training materials for each of the three sectors, which again, just to recap, are manufacturing, healthcare and administration. Now, here's an interesting point that I'd like to bring to your attention. The training materials for all three sectors are exactly the same. Yes, I mean, it's exactly the same training procedure for manufacturing, for healthcare and for administration. In fact, the only thing that I changed between the training for these three sectors is the terminology, because that's the only thing that's different. So for instance, in manufacturing, when a machine is being set up to produce another product, it's called a changeover. In a healthcare facility, they use the same procedure to change over an operating room to get it ready for the next patient. But that's not called a changeover traditionally, it's called a turnaround. These are two good examples to demonstrate how the same activities in different types of organizations actually use different terminology. So that's the only changes that I've made in each of these training courses. So if you're participating in the lean manufacturing training, you're going to hear specifically lean manufacturing terminology. If you're participating in the lean healthcare training, I've tried to give you an awareness of manufacturing terminology, but then translated that into lean healthcare terminology. And I've done the same with the lean administration training materials too. So it's really important to understand these differences, because the different uses of terminology is one thing that will happen between different organizations. But one thing that I really need to be clear about is that lean principles are transferable into any type of organization. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter how they apply the lean principles. They are transferable. So that's something that you need to understand, because it's at the core of the lean principles and also how these training courses are developed. Now you're starting with the Level 1 Lean Awareness training course, which takes you through a learning process that allows you to get a better understanding of lean concepts. It'll give you an appreciation of how to identify waste and which tools and techniques to use. Now it explains the 10-step training and implementation model, which is a proprietary system that I developed over a period of time that I've been involved in the continuous process improvement field. Now there are a couple of important points that I really need to share with you so that you get a better understanding of the 10-step training and implementation model. The 10-step model was created and developed based on my own experiences over the period of time that I've been involved with lean, which was a journey for me that started way back in the 1980s. However, I need to let you know that during this time, I've used many different tools and techniques. In fact, at my last count, I think it was about 145 techniques that were in my personal lean toolkit. However, let me be clear, I don't use all 145 tools all the time. I only use a select few on a regular basis and then bring in others as and when they're needed, based on the client requirements. So I came up with the idea for the 10-step training and implementation model because I asked an interesting question, which was, what specific training and implementation activities during an improvement event generated the best results? I certainly knew the answer in my head, but I had to prove it with data. I looked back at the many different projects that I'd done with clients over the years, and I'm really proud of the fact that I kept good records for each project. And then I asked these two questions. What was the training structure used for the project? And then which methods did the improvement team use during each of the successful projects? In other words, which specific activities allowed the improvement team members to discover the root cause of the issue at hand? I wanted to find out the following: when it worked, why did it work, and then what tools were used. Now, after my research, I went on to standardize the system, and I developed what now I call the 10-step training and implementation model. Now, the 10-step training and implementation model actually demonstrates a standard roadmap for implementing lean principles into any organization. Now, the 10 steps represent 10 categories or groupings of lean principles that are required for any organization to start their transformation towards becoming a lean enterprise. So the 10 steps don't just have 10 tools per se. There are about 15 tools that are integrated into 10 different categories or steps. You'll discover each of them as you go through the training materials. Now I'd like to give you a brief overview of some of the 10 steps and how they're used. Step 1 in the 10-step training and implementation model is called strategy deployment. The Japanese term for strategy deployment is Hoshin Kanri. I believe myself, personally from experience, that it's the most important process for any company that's starting out on a lean implementation. And this is why I've listed it as the first step. Strategy deployment is designed to get an executive management team to start to investigate and understand how their business is performing today. We would call this their current state. They need to be able to find the answers to questions such as, how has the business been performing over the last 2 to 3 years? And what brought the business to where it is in this moment in time? Once they gain a clear understanding of where their business is today, then they need to ask a few more questions. Specifically, what do we want the business to look like in the next 2 to 3 years? And what do we need to improve to achieve this type of business? And then they have to come up with a plan to achieve the type of business that they want. And that really is what strategy deployment helps them to achieve. Now, when they figure out where they want their business to be, they need to recognize which parts of the organization won't be able to make that jump into the future state. So it's important that the management team takes on the responsibility to define the concept, or what we would call a vision, of this future state. And this term is going to be explained to you in the training. Now, once they've defined their vision, they're going to have to figure out which business processes need to be improved. And they'll create a strategic plan that will prioritize their improvement activities so that they're able to deliver the best bang for the buck. That's using their resources in the most cost-effective manner to give them the best results. Now, everyone in the organization needs to understand how their specific work tasks align with these strategic objectives. In other words, everyone from the executive management team down to the shop floor employees are on the same page, and that's why strategy deployment, or Hoshin Kanri, is such a critical component in any lean implementation process. Next is step 2 in this 10-step training and implementation model, and this is called value stream mapping. Once you've figured out what kind of organization you want to become, in the next 2 to 3 years that is, then you've got to find out what's stopping you from achieving the vision or the future state. The main reason that organizations can't achieve their vision is because there's hidden waste inside their business processes that's actually stopping them from achieving that vision. And these were actually identified in step 1, strategy deployment. Now, to uncover this hidden waste, we use this technique called value stream mapping. A good way to think about the difference between step 1 in strategy deployment and step 2 value stream mapping is to use an analogy of a plane in flight. Strategy deployment is the same as looking at a business from an altitude of 50,000 feet. You'll be able to see the outline of the buildings and the departments that reside inside of those buildings, but you're not going to be able to see the details of the activities or the processes that are being performed in each of the departments within those buildings. To get a more detailed view of the process, you'll need to take a closer look at it. What value stream mapping does is it takes you down to about a 5,000 feet level. And at this altitude, you obviously lose sight of the outline of the bigger buildings of the departments, but you'll be able to look at a particular process and then start to identify the specific locations of any hidden waste within the process itself. Now, let me give you an example. Now, you may go into a financial department, for instance, and try to find the waste in the invoicing process, let's say. So you need to ask questions like, why are customers waiting for their invoices? What's causing the invoice system to back up? Or, for instance, you may go into an emergency department in a healthcare facility and ask, well, where's the waste? Well, you need to look, where are the patients waiting? Where are the patients being held up when they don't need to be? Or you could ask the same questions when you go into a manufacturing facility. Where's the waste? So you'd look for places where is the production system being held up? Why are the customers having to wait for their orders? Why are they being forced to wait for their orders? These are good examples to show how step 2 value stream mapping fits into this 10-step training and implementation model. I hope this is helpful. Now, step 3 in this 10-step training and implementation model is called workplace organization. It contains 2 elements. One element is called 5S, and we're going to learn more about this as you go through the lean training. Now, the 5S system teaches you how to organize the workplace to first identify and then eliminate waste and improve the process. The second element of step 3 workplace organization is a technique that's known as visual management. Now, the goal of visual management is to be able to manage tools, processes, information, even people, using visual indicators. A good example of this is color coding. You'd use this so that you know when an item is missing or it's not been returned to its correct location. Now, here's something that's very important that I need to share with you about the 10-step model. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are the only 3 steps in the 10-step training and implementation model that need to be completed sequentially, that is, in their specific order. So just for clarity, step 1 needs to be completed first, then you complete step 2 after you've completed step 1, and then you complete step 3 after you've completed step 2. Steps 1, 2, and 3 need to be done in that order. I know from personal experience that many organizations are often resistant to follow these prescribed procedures. However, if they're serious and they want to sustain their improvements over the long term, they must start by creating a solid infrastructure to support their continuous process improvement system. So implementing steps 1, 2, and 3 will allow them to create such an infrastructure and to develop the internal discipline to do this. Steps 4 through 10 can be completed as and when the opportunity to implement them arises. However, there is a caveat. You need to understand that the 10-step training and implementation model does have a logical sequence to it, and that's why I designed it the way that I did. So if it's possible to implement steps 4 through 10 in the prescribed sequence, then I'd advise you to do so. Okay, I wanted to give you this information about the 10-step training and implementation model to help you understand it a little better. Now what I want to do is focus on you. I want you to know that I'm here to help you, and I will do everything that I can to support you to complete these training courses successfully. However, I want you to remember that you've already completed what I consider the most difficult task, and that is making the decision to sign up for the training. All I need from you now is your commitment to participate in this training course. Now, the responsibility for success lies in the working relationship that we develop between the two of us. And here's what I mean. I want you to put the work in towards learning from the training materials, and I promise you that I'll put the work in to support and assist you through your learning process. Remember, as I said before, I'm here to help you, and as a mentor, I really do honor that process. And here's what I'd like you to do to help us both achieve a successful outcome. I'd like you to contact me with any questions or even concerns that you may have about the training materials or about the website, any issues you've got with that, anything, etc., whatever. Anything you experience, just contact me. I'd like you to stay in contact with me on a regular basis and to keep me updated on your progress as you work through the training. Now, you can do this on a daily basis if you choose, or weekly. It doesn't matter to me. I want you to feel free to contact me as and when you need to. I will personally reply to your emails that you send to me. Please remember, if it's over a weekend or a national holiday here in the US, it may take a little longer to get a reply to your email. I want you to use email as your primary method for contacting me because it allows me to respond quickly, no matter where I am when I receive your message. It's even if I'm in an airport or I'm driving a car, I can always pull over and answer an email immediately. I've even been able to answer an email when I've sat in a coffee shop. I know, I drink coffee, and I do sit in coffee shops. But I don't want you to labor over anything. If you're in any doubt, just email me your question. Now, there may be a situation when an email response is not going to work, or it takes too long because the person's not able to interpret the answer in the email. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen from time to time. Now, in this situation, and if it should arise, I'll suggest that we schedule a phone conversation to resolve the problem, or give a more detailed response to a question. I can use virtual internet tools also, such as GoToMeeting, Skype, etc., to work with you if the need should arise. Now, it's important to remember that I have people participating in the Lean training in places such as the UK, India, Australia, in the US and Canada. So time zones are a very interesting thing to navigate. For example, London in the UK is 8 hours in front of me because I'm on the west coast of the United States. So it's important to understand this in case you need to schedule a phone conversation. So now I'd like to recap on the different training levels that are being offered on our online training courses. The Level 1 Lean Awareness Training is designed as an executive overview to give you the right terminology and to explain some of the lean tools and techniques that are incorporated into the 10-step training and implementation model. The Level 1 Lean Awareness Training Package builds a solid foundation for the Level 2 Lean Practitioner course. The Level 2 Lean Practitioner course is specifically designed for anyone that wants to know how to apply the lean tools that are identified in the 10-step training and implementation model into their work area or workplace. Now, this training course will help them to become an active team member and to be able to participate in a process improvement event within their organization. They're not going to go into this situation blind once they've done this training. Now, the level 3 Lean Expert is designed for people that want to teach Lean principles and facilitate Lean improvement teams. It's the only training course that has a generic format. So let me explain what I mean by a generic format. The Level 1 Lean Awareness and the Level 2 Lean Practitioner training courses have been specifically designed for each of the 3 key business sectors that I talked about earlier in the video, which are manufacturing, healthcare, and administration. However, the Level 3 Lean Expert training course is a generic format which includes Lean tools and techniques as they're applied into the manufacturing, healthcare, or administration environments. Now, why is this? Why did I do this? Well, it's important to understand that when a person enters into a Lean Expert level of capability, they must be able to transfer and adapt their skills, that is their Lean skills, from one organization to another. So, for example, if you're working in a healthcare organization, you should be able to transfer your Lean skills into, say, a manufacturing or an administration organization, and vice versa. In fact, many healthcare facilities and administrative organizations, such as banks, medical billing, etc., are actually trying to recruit people with Lean manufacturing backgrounds. So why are they doing this? Well, they're doing it because they want people that can bring a fresh perspective and a totally different way of looking at their business processes. You see, breakthrough improvements can only occur when people can change the way they see their own work environment. I like the quote from Albert Einstein. He explains it the best. You cannot solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created the problem. You see, problem solving requires an individual, a team, or an organization to go through a paradigm shift. That is, to push beyond the status quo. So this is a reason why the Level 3 Lean Expert training has a generic format. Plus, as I said earlier in the video, the training materials for the 3 business sectors were identical except for the specific terminology used in each field. So I hope this information is helpful to you. Now let me move on to the actual training system itself. Now, once you access your online account, you'll see a page with 2 different types of links to be able to access the training videos. One type of link is to access the Lean training videos themselves. As you click on one of these links, you'll open a new browser window or a new tab with a video. Click on the play button in the center to start the training video. What you'll see is that that video has a table of contents located on the left-hand side of the video panel. Now, when you mouse over the video panel, the table of contents appears in the frame. And when you move your mouse away, or your cursor away, shall I say, from the video, the table of contents will disappear out of view. Now, if you scroll up and down the table of contents, it'll allow you to flip backwards and forwards between different screen locations in the video itself. Now, this means you can start watching a video and then stop it. When you need to come back to it later, you'll be able to use the table of contents to resume that video virtually at the same place that you left off. Now, this is great because it allows you to pace the training, and then you don't have to sit there and watch a 45-minute video all the way through in one sitting. Below each of these video windows, you'll see an attachment tab. Now, this is where you can download your course workbook and your supporting documents. Now, the course workbooks are in PDF format, so they will require Adobe Reader. The documents are your Lean training reference materials, and they're yours to keep forever. The second type of link is when you click on the View link, and you'll see it in the page. Now, a window, or what we call a light box, will open in the center of your computer or laptop monitor. I need you to click on the play button to start the video. Now these videos are information videos that are created to support the main lean training videos. And we'll continue adding additional videos as and when we're able to create them. Now I want you to know that there's a specific reason why I chose to use two different types of video systems and links in the training. Number one is because it adds some variation to the screen to make it easier on the eyes. And as I'm sure you're aware, that staring at a computer screen for long periods can actually cause eye fatigue and problems generally. So according to the research, giving your eyes a little variety will help. So that's why I'm using this particular system. Now the videos also, this is the second reason, the videos work on both Macs and PCs. And this is another main reason why I chose this particular system to display the training videos. Okay, so now what I'd like to recap on some of the main points throughout this video. First of all, my name again is Chris Turner, and I'm the founder and director of training and development for Radical Transformation. That's the company that owns all of the intellectual property on this website. I'd like you to email your questions to me at training@radical-transformation.com. Once again, that's training@radical-transformation.com. And I'd like you to start this procedure by sending me a quick email to let me know that you are able to access your online account and also the training materials. In the subject line of your email, I'd like you to type the following text line: Lean training is accessible. That's all you need to do. Now, just to recap again, if email is not resolving any of your problems, we will move into the next phase and schedule a one-on-one call. Now, this conversation can take place over the phone, via Skype, or GoToMeeting, etc. I can and I do work with clients both virtually and on site, so this is not going to be a problem for me. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this introduction. I want you to enjoy the training materials, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun working through each of the training modules. I would like to get your feedback about the training materials. That's both positive and negative. Let me know what you think, because that's how I improve my business processes, by hearing your comments. I want to hear what I call the GBU. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, most people think that you only want to hear the good comments, so they don't share the bad or the ugly feedback with their supplier or their provider. Well, there's an important lesson here. Unless we can create a working relationship that allows us to be honest in a respectful way, the right people never seem to hear the right things or see the things in the same way as the customer does. Reality starts with honesty, and that's the only way we're going to improve. Now I'll end this conversation by wishing you every success on your lean journey.